Enemy bombers travel at hundreds of miles an hour. Every town is a target. Any town is a target.
Imagine, in just the last century alone, over 100 million lives were lost to wars. This equals to the extinction of the whole Spain twice, or killing 1/3 of the population of the United States. Entire cities were reduced to rubble, and economies were shattered. But what drives nations to ignite such terrifying conflicts? Humanity fought in religious wars, wars for independence, civil wars, and world wars. They all start for different reasons: battles for power, territorial expansion, or ideology. However, at the core of almost every war stands one fundamental drive. One side seeks to obtain resources, such as land, raw materials, or workforce, from another side. With this in mind, let's dive into the causes that drove three different wars: World War I, World War II, and the Russian Civil War. By the late 19th century, Germany had rapidly industrialized. For further development, there was a massive demand for resources. So on July 28th of 1914, Germany enters the First World War. German Chancellor von Bethmann issued the September Program. This document gives his vision on the post-war Europe after Germany's victory. It details the economic, territorial, and power goals of Germany for the First World War. In the center of this radical plan was the creation of an economic bloc dominated by Germany, called Mitteleuropa. France, Italy, Sweden, Austria-Hungary, and the Netherlands would be forced to join it. This would end the British economic and political dominance in Europe. An even more unfortunate fate was planned for the future puppet states of Germany. Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia would provide Germany with the significant coal and iron ore deposits, fertile soil, and control over trade routes. Fortunately, this plan was never accomplished. Germany lost the war on November 11th of 1918 and signed the formal peace treaty, Treaty of Versailles. The population of Germany was humiliated by the defeat, territorial loss, and immense sanctions imposed on Germany with the treaty. In 1933, to power came Adolf Hitler. He rebuilt the German economy and military and reunified the German population with his ideology of Germans being the superior race. However, behind this ideology still stood an agenda very similar to the one in World War I. The German plan in World War II aimed to establish a vast empire dominated by Germany. The Nazis envisioned control over Europe's resources and dictating its political and economic future. In 1941, after conquering Europe, Hitler turns his gaze over to the east. Operation Barbarossa targeted the Soviet Union to secure fertile lands, oil fields, and key industrial resources. With Russia smashed, Germany would then be master of Europe and the Balkans. This is how Adolf Hitler addressed his generals in July of 1940. Hitler's dreams never came to reality. After a bloody 6-year war, Germany signed the unconditional surrender on May 8, 1945. So, the most devastating wars of the 20th century, which were driven by a hunger for economic dominance, were over. Now, let's get to the Russian Civil War. It might seem that this war is significantly different to the world wars because the sides fought within the same country. But let's see what triggered this conflict. In 1917, the Russian Empire was at war for already 3 years. The weak industry and agriculture and the large military costs put the country in the heaviest economical crisis. Extreme starvation and hundreds of thousands dead on the front pushed peasants, industry workers, and low ranks of the army towards indignation and riots. The Russian Tsar, Nicholas II, abdicated, and the Bolsheviks, a communist party led by Vladimir Lenin, seized power in Russia. Bolsheviks promised end of war, land to peasants, and factories to workers. These slogans won over the 80% of the Russian population. Bolshevik ideology prioritized the working class and peasants. It redistributed wealth and abolished the feudal and capitalist systems in favor of collective ownership. So, the Bolsheviks started taking private property by force and killed anyone who resisted. Workers were capturing factories, peasants grasping land from their owners. The opposition, consisting of land and industry owners, nobility, and military top ranks, started to fight back. In 1918, Russia erupted into chaos. The Civil War began. Over the next 4 years, the whole of Russia fought for or against the new economical ideologies. The war ended in 1922, with Bolsheviks emerging as the winners. They completely nationalized all private property and began the journey towards a bright communist future. So, do you see the common causes behind these 3 wars? At the core, They were battles for control over vital territories and economic resources. Whether it was a civil or a global war, at the heart of the bloodshed lay the struggle for manpower, fertile lands, and deposits of fuels and minerals. Understanding these common causes not only illuminates the past, but can also prevent devastating conflicts in the future.